My wife cheated with my boss while I worked 80-hour weeks to pay her debts. So I recorded everything and took the company in the divorce settlement. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and for the first time in my life, I thought I could finally breathe. After years of living paycheck to paycheck, grinding through dead-end warehouse jobs, and skipping birthdays just to cover rent, I landed a logistics coordinator role that changed everything. The hours were brutal, sometimes 14-hour shifts, 6 days a week, but the money was good. I told myself it was worth it, especially because I wasn't doing this just for me. I was doing it for Kayla, my wife of 4 years, and the mountain of debt she came into our marriage with, over $60,000 in credit cards, cosmetic procedures, and to businesses that flopped before they even launched. But I didn't hold it over her. I told her, "Your debt is my debt now," and I meant it. I loved her. I wanted us to have a clean slate. I even joked once, "You married a workhorse, not a show pony." We moved into a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet suburb. Nothing fancy, just safe. I was putting nearly 70% of my paycheck toward her debt, eating tuna and rice most nights while she scrolled through Pinterest planning our dream kitchen reno. I ignored the disconnect. I figured once we were in the clear, we'd both finally relax. Maybe take a real vacation. Maybe try for a kid. But now, looking back, I wasn't building a life. I was buying silence, paying off someone else's mess while convincing myself I was being noble. And the worst part, while I was working overtime to cover her past, she was busy writing a future I wasn't even in. I didn't know it then, but the woman I was breaking my back for was already halfway out the door with someone who didn't even know how to lift a box in the beginning. Kayla used to glow when she talked about me. "My husband works harder than anyone I know," she'd beam to her friends. 80-hour weeks, and still finds time to rub my feet. Back then, I wore her pride like a badge of honor. I thought it meant we were solid, that my sacrifice mattered to her. But slowly, those compliments twisted into complaints. "If you actually came home for dinner, maybe you'd know what I like to eat," she snapped one night, when I forgot she'd started hating onions. Or, "You spend more time with your laptop than with your wife." She said it with a smirk, but the words hit harder than I expected. I told myself it was just stress. Debt stress, marriage stress, makes people say stupid things, right? So I apologized again and again, even when I wasn't wrong. I took on extra routes, gave up my weekends, let her sleep in while I commuted at 5 a.m., but the gratitude vanished. She stopped texting me, "Be safe" in the mornings, stopped packing me lunch like she used to. Instead, I'd come home to take out boxes on the counter, and her passed out on the couch in full makeup. Phone still buzzing beside her, I noticed she started locking her phone. Started saying things like, "You wouldn't get it" when I asked about her day. She also started getting dressed up more just to run errands. A new pair of heels I'd never seen before. A gym membership she suddenly cared about, even though she never went. Still, I clung to denial. Told myself she was just finding herself again now that we were more stable, but something had shifted in her gaze. Like she was already imagining life without me alike. I'd fulfilled my purpose by cleaning up her mess, and I had no idea that the mess was just getting started. It was one of those picture-perfect Saturday's clear skies, burgers on the grill, toddlers wobbling through the grass. My company threw an annual family BBQ, and for once, I wasn't on call. I thought it'd be a chance for Kayla to see the life I'd been breaking my back to build, to meet the people I spent more time with than her. She wore a sundress I'd never seen before, tight red, low in the back. I told her she looked amazing, but she just rolled her eyes and said, "Don't act surprised." I should have noticed the first red flag when she asked, "Will your boss be there?" Like she was excited. I figured she just wanted to make a good impression. Grant my boss was already there when we arrived. Mid-40s, silver hair, tailored golf polo, handshake like a politician. He was charming in a smug, too smooth kind of way. The type of guy who made you feel small while pretending to lift you up. "Is this the famous Kayla?" he asked, all teeth and charm. She smiled back to wide. "So you're the reason I barely see my husband." They laughed. I didn't. Something about the way his hand lingered on her back made my jaw clench. She looked up at him like he was a damn movie star. Throughout the afternoon, I kept catching them in little corners, laughing, whispering, too close. Once, I walked up behind them and saw her touching his forearm while he leaned in, grinning like a wolf. They jumped apart when they saw me. "You good?" I asked. "Relax," Kayla said, waving me off. "We were just talking about you." But her tone said otherwise, like I was interrupting something more exciting. That night, I couldn't shake it. I stared at the ceiling while she snored beside me. Something had started that dais, something I wasn't supposed to notice, but I had, and I couldn't unsee it. It started with something small, like these things always do. I was doing the laundry late one night, folding Kayla's jeans like I always did, when a long, crumpled receipt slipped out of the back pocket. It was from a high-end wine bar downtown, the kind of place we'd never gone to, not even on anniversaries. Total bill, $1.98. 2 glasses of something expensive, a charcuterie board, and what really punched me in the gut, dessert for 2. I stared at the date on it. It was from the night I'd worked an overnight shipment route, stuck hauling freight until 4 a.m. When I asked Kayla about it the next morning, I kept my tone light. "Hey, were you out with someone on Tuesday? Found this in the laundry." Her eyes didn't even flicker. "Wow, going through my pockets now?" "I wasn't. Ty was doing your laundry. I thought maybe it was a girls' night." Or, "Jesus, you're acting like a detective." "I went with Madison from Pilates. We split a bottle and caught up." "Sorry I didn't clear it with you, officer." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something felt oft too rehearsed, and the way she snatched the receipt from my hand like it was evidence in a trial, that didn't sit right. Later that week, I checked our shared credit card statements. 2 more suspicious charges, a $230 sushi bill and a boutique hotel reservation that had been canceled just hours after it was made. I brought those up too. She rolled her eyes and mumbled something about booking a spa day she never went to. Said I was being paranoid, but I wasn't paranoid. I was seeing cracks in the glass. Cracks she was trying to paint over with lipstick and lies. And I was starting to realize I was living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. There's a moment where suspicion turns into certainty. For me, it was the night I came home early from a canceled delivery and saw Kayla pacing our living room, whispering into her phone like a teenager hiding a secret. She didn't hear me walk in. I stood frozen by the hallway arch, just close enough to catch a single phrase. "He has no clue, babe. He still thinks I'm stressed about money." She laughed, soft and breathy, then hung up as I stepped forward and made just enough noise for her to notice me. She jumped. "You scared me?" "Didn't mean to," I said, playing dumb. "Just got off early." She was shaking, but covered it well. "I was just on the phone with Madison, right?" "Madison again?" She must have been a busy woman. That night, I ordered a burner phone online, paid cash at a corner store for a prepaid plan, installed a voice recording app that could auto-save in the cloud. I stuck that phone under the couch cushion, where Kayla always flopped down after her errands. I also set up a motion-activated dashcam with cabin audio in my car, the one she borrowed, at least once a week for groceries. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about dignity, about not being the fool in someone else's love story. For days, I kept up the act. Came home, kissed her on the forehead, asked about her day. She smiled like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, every night I slipped into the garage, uploaded audio, and listened to pieces of my life shatter. And one night, I heard a man's voice, not just any man, Grant, my boss, laughing, calling her baby. Making plans, I sat there in the dark, holding my breath, and for the first time in years, I felt rage settle where love used to live. It was past midnight, and the garage was freezing. I sat on an old folding chair, phone in one hand, headphones in the other. I pressed play on the latest audio file from the burner, expecting maybe flirtation, maybe a lie I could confront her with. What I got was worse. Breathless, that tone she hadn't used with me in months. Then a low chuckle. "Male? Familiar. You're driving me insane. You know that," he said. "I like it when you lose control," she whispered. My stomach turned. "You think he suspects anything?" Kayla laughed again. "He's too busy playing hero, still working overtime to clean up my messes. He doesn't even see me anymore." I paused the recording, closed my eyes, and just sat there. I had imagined betrayal 1,000 ways suspicion, anger, maybe a confrontation. I didn't imagine her describing me like a joke, like I was some pathetic background character in a love story she was writing with someone else. And Grant, My boss, the man who gave me a chance, who shook my hand and told me I was one of the hardest workers he'd ever met. I had defended him to coworkers, who called him sleazy. I restarted the clip and forced myself to listen. They made fun of my long hours, of how I always smelled like diesel. Imagine working that hard and still not knowing your wife's CKing your boss, she said. I ran to the corner of the garage and threw up twice. Afterward, I just sat on the floor, shaking, forehead pressed to the cold concrete. I wasn't just being cheated, I was being mocked for trying. And in that moment, a quiet voice inside me said, record everything, burn them both, but don't let them see you coming. The next morning, I woke up before her, made coffee like always, and even kissed her on the forehead. She smiled like she didn't spend the night whispering into my boss's ear. Like she wasn't slowly gutting our marriage from the inside out. I became an actor in my own life. At work, I laughed at Grant's jokes. I nodded through his Monday morning meetings, even when I could still hear his voice in my head, moaning her name, mocking mine. At home, I played the part of doting husband. Want Thai tonight? I asked. She blinked, caught off guard by my sudden softness. Sure, that sounds good. She didn't know I was recording everything. Not just her conversations or finances, her location history. Every little paper trail she thought she had swept under the rug. I went through our joint bank account with a magnifying glass. Found Venmo payments to names I didn't recognize. Late-night Uber rides from places she told me she never went. Every night, I sat in the garage or in my car in the driveway, headphones on, cataloging her betrayal like it was an episode I couldn't stop watching. One clip shattered something inside me. Kayla said, if he gets that promotion, you have to make it happen. He'll be impossible to control. Grant replied, don't worry, he won't last another quarter here. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a fling. It was a plan. They were trying to push me out. He was dangling the threat of job instability over my head while she slowly detached at home. I wasn't paranoid I was targeted, so I started downloading company emails, saving voice notes, screenshotting text logs and calendar invites. They thought I was dumb. But I was done playing dumb, and I was going to let them build the fire so I could be the one to light the match. 2 weeks later, everything exploded. Quietly. Kayla showed up at my office unannounced. Dressed like she was heading to a casting call, tight blouse, high heels, makeup too perfect for a casual drop-in. She brought takeout, said she was thinking of me. But she never did stuff like this. Not unless she wanted something. Thought I'd surprise you, she said, setting the bag on my desk like a gift. You've been working so hard. Figured I'd stop by and say hi to a few people. Maybe drop off some resumes. I froze. Resumes here. She shrugged, too casually. Why not? Grant's always saying how the company needs more dynamic female voices. You don't think that's weird, do you? I don't even remember what I said in response, just that I smiled, nodded, and died a little inside. Later that day, I passed by Grant's office and saw them through the window, her hand on his forearm, his fake laugh echoing through the glass. I ducked away before they saw me, but I wasn't the only one watching at lunch. 2 interns sat behind me in the break room, whispering just loud enough. Did you see her? Total smoke show. Yeah, but she's definitely sleeping with Grant. No way she gets a position that fast. I clenched my fist around my coffee cup so hard it cracked. Kayla wasn't just cheating, she was angling, plotting her next move like a chess player, clearing the board. She wasn't planning to build a life with me anymore. She was positioning herself to replace me entirely. I felt sick, but I also felt something else, clarity. If this was a game to her, then it was time I learned how to win. Because if she was going to treat me like I was disposable, I was going to show her exactly how dangerous the quiet, overworked husband could be. That night, I drove past our house. Just kept going. No plan, just a weight in my chest and a voice in my head screaming, protect yourself. I pulled into a strip mall parking lot and sat in the car scrolling through local law firms. Found one with a reputation for high-conflict divorce. That sounded about right. Called the number, awoman.answered.com, firm, sharp. Her name was Erica. You have proof? She asked. More than I wanted, I said. Voice cracking. The next day, I sat in her office, heart pounding as I laid it all out. Kayla's affair, the audio recordings, the finances, even the shady company emails I'd started collecting. Erica didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair and said, "This isn't just adultery. This is coordinated career sabotage." I told her everything: how Grant had made subtle threats, how Kayla was eyeing a position in the same company, how they joked about promoting her if I quit. Erica smiled. "Let them think they're winning," she said. "We're going to play this like chess. You keep collecting, don't confront, don't slip, and when the time is right, we file and bury them both." She also asked me about assets. Turns out Kayla had quietly opened a separate checking account 6 months ago. I hadn't noticed. My face went cold. Separate account, unexplained transfers, employer collusion, Erica said. "That's not a wife. That's a hostile actor." I walked out of that office heavier and lighter at the same time. They thought they were pulling the strings. But now I had someone who knew how to cut them clean. And from that moment on, I wasn't just surviving this anymore. I was planning my exit, and it was going to hurt them more than they ever saw coming. The trick was to act defeated, but not suspicious. I started letting little things slip in front of Kayla, left my work boots in the hallway, forgot to shave, ate dinner silently. Staring at my phone like I was too burned out to care, she bought it. One night, I muttered, "I don't know how much longer I can do this," just loud enough for her to hear. She perked up instantly. "The job?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah," I sighed. "It's eating me alive." Kayla didn't even fake concern. "Maybe it's a sign," she said. "You've been killing yourself for years. Maybe it's time to walk away." I nodded slowly, pretending like the thought hadn't already crossed my mind 100 times. But that night, I crafted a beautiful little trap. I left my work laptop open on the dining table, with a fake resignation letter pulled up, written but unsent. It looked like I was on the verge of quitting, like I was unraveling. I even added a few unsent emails to Grant, saying I felt undervalued and was considering other options. I made sure she saw them. The next week, Grant called me into his office. No warning, he closed the door and leaned back in his chair. "Hey, listen, I think it might be time we talked about your future here. You seem distracted." Distracted. That word hit harder than it should have. He said they were restructuring and might need to transition some responsibilities. Offered me a quiet severance. He was trying to fire me. I smiled and nodded, pretended I understood. Inside, I was burning, because now I had the final piece. Proof that they were working together to ruin me personally, and professionally, they wanted me out. But they had no idea I'd already locked the doors behind. The envelope was just sitting there on the kitchen counter. No note, no warning, no conversation. I had worked a 16-hour shift, came home smelling like metal and exhaustion, and saw it the moment I dropped my keys. It was thick, heavy, legal. I knew what it was before I opened. It petitioned for dissolution of marriage, filed by Kayla. She listed emotional abandonment as the reason, claimed I was distant, cold, absent, requested spousal support, half the assets, full claim to emotional damages. I laughed, out loud, a sharp, bitter thing that echoed off the walls of the house I paid for. She didn't just cheat, she planned to gut me on the way out. She timed it perfectly. After months of sabotage, after trying to get me fired, after building a trail of manipulated narratives so she'd come out looking like the victim, and here I was, standing in the kitchen, in a stained uniform, after nearly losing my job, being slapped with divorce papers like I was the villain in her little tragedy, back against the cabinets, just breathing. I don't remember how long I stayed there. An hour or two. What I do remember is the silence. That brutal, heavy silence of realizing your entire life was a lie, that the person you built your world around had been sharpening knives behind your back for months. I thought that was it, that I'd hit the bottom. But then I remembered I had it all. The recordings, the emails, the audio files, the money trails, the fake resignation, the attempts to remove me quietly, and suddenly the silence didn't feel so heavy, because if she wanted war, I was finally ready to fight. The mediation room was colder than I expected. Neutral carpet, sterile table, a bowl of untouched peppermints between us like some kind of peace offering. Kayla sat across from me, hair curled, lips glossed, wearing that fake, serene expression she always used when she thought she was winning. Grant wasn't physically there, but his lawyer was. Clean suit, empty eyes. The kind of man who charges by the minute and breathes in loopholes. My lawyer, Erica, didn't say much at first. She just pulled out a black binder, thick as a phone book, and set it in the center of the table. This, she said, is a timeline of infidelity, financial fraud, employer-employee misconduct, and attempted career sabotage. Kayla blinked. What is this? She laughed, like it was a prank. Erica didn't flinch. This is your voice, Kayla, she said, hitting play on a small speaker. The room filled with the sound of Kayla whispering sweet nothings to Grant, mocking me. Coordinating her next move, she lunged forward to shut it off. Erica pulled it back calmly. That's just the beginning. Emails, transaction records, texts between her and Grant's personal account, even the audio of my attempted termination conversation, Grant offering me a quiet exit while she encouraged him to cut the dead weight. Their lawyer turned pale. Kayla stopped blinking by the time we got to the part about her secret bank account and Grant's help in moving money around. I could feel the shift in the room. The judge, who had joined via Zoom, erupted. I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all shared assets pending investigation. Kayla opened her mouth. Nothing came out. For the first time in months, I felt taller. Not in revenge, but in truth. They tried to erase me. Instead, I became the author of the real story. And this was just the beginning of the ending they never saw coming. Within a week, Grant was suspended pending an internal investigation. Turns out, using company funds to bankroll your affair isn't just unethical, it's illegal. One of the finance directors pulled me aside quietly and said, "We always knew he was slimy, but this is nuclear." Kayla had been funneling money through a shell account set up with Grant's help under the guise of consulting services. Except there were no services, no business, just a paper trail of lies, dinners, hotel rooms, and cash withdrawals timed perfectly with her errand runs. HR called me in for a statement. I showed them everything, the messages, the calendar invites, even a screenshot of Grant's internal email forwarding Kayla a confidential promotion list. He'd offered her my job before they even tried to fire me. The company was furious. Not just at the affair, but the breach of protocol, favoritism, and potential lawsuits it opened them up to. Word spread fast. Grant went from untouchable executive to whispered jokes in the break room. She was escorted off the premises when she tried to come in and clear things up. HR wasn't having it. She texted me the next day, "You're seriously trying to ruin us over one mistake?" One mistake? I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer instead. The irony wasn't lost on me how all the late nights, the overtime, the silence I endured had nearly broken me. And yet now, it was that same discipline, the quiet observation, the planning that gave me the upper hand. I didn't gloat. I didn't post online. I just showed up to work, sat at my desk, and waited. Because now, I wasn't just a logistics coordinator. I was the guy with the receipts, the patience, and the leverage. And the company had one question left for me. Would you be open to stepping into Grant's role permanently? The final hearing felt more like a business transaction than the end of a marriage. Kayla showed up in beige like she was auditioning for sympathy. Her lawyer looked exhausted. Mine looked like she was ready to collect a trophy. The judge didn't waste time. Erica presented the full documentation: financial fraud, infidelity, asset concealment, employment interference. We submitted the audio recordings, the transaction trails, the emails. There was even a signed NDA. Grant had forced a junior employee to sign proof he was hiding their involvement. Kayla barely looked up as the judge read the findings. She was denied spousal support, denied asset claims. Her separate account was seized and investigated. The house, mine. The car, mine. Every cent I'd paid toward her debt, credited back in the asset split. And the kicker, she was ordered to pay my legal fees. When the ruling was finalized, she finally spoke. Just 3 words: "You ruined me." I looked at her, calm as stone. "No," I said, "you did that yourself." There was no screaming, no apology. Just the sound of her heels clacking against the courthouse floor as she walked out of my life for good. Outside, the sky was gray, and everything felt eerily still. Erica handed me the signed papers and said, "This is one for the books." I nodded, but I didn't feel victorious. Not yet, because winning doesn't erase betrayal. It just clears the path forward. But there was one more thing. I needed to do something to close the circle fully. Something quiet, final, and unforgettable, because sometimes the cleanest cuts don't bleed. They leave scars so deep they never stop teaching. 2 weeks later, I sat in Grant's old officeman name on the door, my fingerprint on the lock dot. The company offered me his position permanently, head of regional logistics, a 6-figure salary, full benefits, corner office with a view of the city I used to sweat through just trying to afford rent. First thing I did, cleared out every toxic remnant he left behind. Emails, contacts, policies I brought in fresh. Eyes people who had been overlooked for years. I implemented ethics reviews, anonymous reporting systems. Grant's empire had been built on charm and secrets. Mine would be built on transparency and memory. I wasn't naive. I knew some people whispered behind my back, called me the guy who took down his boss and his wife in one shot. Let them talk, because I'd lived through the wreckage. I'd crawled through humiliation, through hours of audio, through the ache of realizing the person you love thinks of you as an obstacle. Now I got to decide who got promoted, who got second chances, who got a voice. I kept the burner phone, locked in my desk drawer, not out of revenge, but as a reminder of silence, of sacrifice, of what happens when you let people write your story for you. One night, I walked past the break room and overheard someone say, "Man, I heard this department used to be a mess." Someone else replied, "Not anymore. The new guy doesn't miss anything." I smiled because they were right. Kayla was gone. Grant was disgraced. And me. I had my dignity, my job, and for the first time in years, peace. But the final chapter wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming something more valuable than trust, control. I didn't set out to destroy anyone. I just wanted a life that didn't require me to bleed for it, every day. But when you love someone who's only ever loved themselves, you learn the hard way that silence won't save you, and loyalty won't protect you. It took months for everything to settle. Kayla tried to text me once more. "I miss what we had. You'll always be my greatest regret." I didn't respond. I blocked her number, but not before taking a screenshot and sending it to Erica, just in case. Grant's name was quietly removed from the company's directory. No announcement, no thank you email, just gone, replaced, forgotten his legacy. A footnote in an HR report. Mine, a department that ran cleaner, smarter, stronger. People respected me not because I was loud or ruthless, but because I survived what would have broken most people and still chose to lead with clarity sometimes. In the quiet moments late at night, alone in my apartment with a whiskey glass and an open window, I think about how close I came to losing everything. Not just my job, not just my marriage. Myself, but pain is a brutal teacher. It shows you who you are when no one's watching. I rebuilt my savings, took a week off and flew to a cabin up north, no cell service, just pine trees and silence. I didn't tell anyone where I went. I didn't know that to anyone anymore. For the first time in years, I slept 8 hours without waking up angry revenge. That wasn't the plan, but damn, watching them ruin themselves, that was a piece I never knew I needed. And me. I'm still here, still standing, still recording everything just in case someone else thinks I'm the easy one to break.